4.5 billion years old, and one place on Earth has never belonged to anyone. Not because no one wanted it, but because it refuses to be owned. Beneath your feet, if you stood there, 4 kilometers of solid ice press so hard they have bent the bedrock of the Earth itself. And beneath that ice, a completely different world exists in total darkness, sealed away for tens of millions of years. This is the story of a continent that knows how to keep secrets and what science finds when it dares to break the silence. Antarctica was not always a frozen desert, and that is the first astonishing thing to understand. Around 39 million years ago, Antarctica was covered in forests and rivers as warm as the south of France is today. Fossils of ferns, broadleaf trees, and even dinosaur bones have been found here on this very continent. What happened to transform a green continent into the coldest place on Earth in less than 40 million years? The answer lies in a narrow seaway that opened between Antarctica and South America around 34 million years ago. The Drake Passage opened, and the Antarctic Circumpolar Current began to flow surrounding Antarctica like a colossal wall of water. The most powerful ocean current on Earth, carrying 100 times the combined flow of every river on this planet, began circling without end. That current severed Antarctica from warm tropical waters, and the continent's temperature began a fall that never stopped. Ice formed. Ice reflected sunlight back into space. Less heat meant more ice, a feedback loop with no stopping point. Today, Antarctica holds 90% of all the fresh water on this entire planet locked inside ice. If all of it melted, sea levels would rise 58 meters, submerging most of the world's coastal cities beneath the ocean. But the more remarkable thing is not the ice above it, is what is happening directly beneath it. In 1997, after decades of radar surveys, scientists confirmed a vast liquid lake exists directly beneath Russia's Vostok station. Lake Vostok, broader than Belgium, deeper than 500 meters, has sat in complete darkness, sealed from the outside world for more than 15 million years. And it is not alone. Scientists have now mapped more than 400 subglacial lakes beneath this single continent. These lakes are not still. They are connected by underground rivers flowing silently beneath the ice above them. In 2012, Russian scientists finally drilled through 4 kilometers of ice and touched the surface of Lake Vostok itself. Water surged upward and froze almost instantly, but that ice sample contained something no one had anticipated: signs of bacteria, living organisms, surviving in total darkness, under immense pressure, without sunlight, without air. The existence of life in Lake Vostok changed forever how we think about life's limits and where else in the universe life might exist. But to understand why that matters so deeply, we need to look somewhere else in our solar system, nearly 800 million kilometers away. Jupiter's moon Europa holds a liquid water ocean beneath its icy shell, remarkably similar to Lake Vostok, only at a planetary scale. NASA scientists study Antarctica's subglacial ecosystems as a rehearsal for what they hope to find beneath Europa's ice one day. But before science looks outward to the cosmos, it must answer a simpler yet equally mysterious question right here on Earth. Why does no nation truly own the 5th largest continent on Earth, and what does that mean for humanity's future? In 1959, 12 nations signed the Antarctic Treaty, a document with no precedent in the entire history of human diplomacy. That treaty declared Antarctica a nuclear-free, demilitarized zone dedicated solely to science and peace. 7 nations had already claimed Antarctic territory before the treaty, but those claims were frozen indefinitely. Today, 47 nations have joined the treaty, including all major powers, and Antarctica remains a land that belongs to no one. This is rare, a space larger than all of Europe where no national law applies, no private ownership exists, and no court holds jurisdiction. But that peace is being challenged from beneath the ground in the most literal sense. Antarctica is estimated to hold the world's largest untapped reserves of coal, alongside oil, natural gas, and rare strategic minerals. The Madrid Protocol of 1991 banned all mineral extraction until at least 2048, when the treaty faces its first major review. 22 years from now, nations will vote on whether to maintain that ban, and that vote could change everything. Meanwhile, what is actually happening to this continent right now, hidden from most of humanity, is the most urgent story of all. Thwaites Glacier, which scientists now call the Doomsday Glacier, is melting faster than any previous prediction had anticipated. Thwaites is the size of Florida, losing around 50 billion tons of ice every single year from this one glacier alone. The danger is not what melts at the surface. It is the warm ocean water hollowing the glacier from beneath, from within. As warm water infiltrates beneath Thwaites, it severs the glacier's anchor to the ocean floor, and without that anchor, the ice begins to drift. If Thwaites collapses entirely, it alone could raise global sea levels by 60 to 120 centimeters worldwide. But this is not the first time Antarctica has dramatically changed Earth's sea levels, and the last time it happened, no human was alive to witness it. Around 3 million years ago, during the Pliocene epoch, Earth was around 3 degrees Celsius warmer and sea levels stood 15 to 20 meters higher than today. Scientists know this because they read climate history in ice cores, drilled from Antarctica, each layer of ice 1 year in the memory of the Earth. The deepest ice core ever drilled from Europe's Epica research station reads 800,000 years of continuous, unbroken climate history. Inside tiny air bubbles trapped in that ice, scientists find ancient air that dinosaurs once breathed, air from before humans ever existed. From those bubbles, they measured carbon dioxide across 800,000 years and found something that changed every climate debate forever. Across those 800,000 years, atmospheric carbon dioxide never once exceeded 300 parts per million. Today, that number has passed 420 parts per million, and it continues rising every year. In 800,000 years of recorded climate history, carbon dioxide levels have never been this high, not once, not in any previous era. And Antarctica is the only place on Earth where the physical, tangible, touchable evidence of all that history is preserved in one place. But that archive of Earth's memory is melting, and once it melts, it is gone forever. That is why an international team of scientists is in a race drilling ice cores as fast as possible before they are lost forever. The Beyond Epica project is attempting to drill ice old enough to read 1.5 million years of climate history, deeper than any ice core in human history. In the oldest ice, they hope to find evidence of a mysterious climate shift, the mid-Pleistocene transition, which science still cannot fully explain. The question is, why, around 800,000 years ago, did Earth's ice age rhythm suddenly shift from 40,000-year cycles to 100,000-year cycles with no obvious cause? Antarctica, with its silent ice, may be the only place on Earth that holds the answer to that question. Meanwhile, an entire living world operates at the edges of this continent, completely dependent on the existence of that ice. Antarctic krilled tiny crustaceans, around 6 centimeters long, are the creatures upon which the entire Southern Ocean ecosystem is built. The total biomass of Antarctic krill is estimated at 150 to 500 million tons, greater than the combined weight of every human being alive. Krill feed on microscopic algae growing on the underside of sea ice, the connection between life and ice that makes everything depend on everything else. When sea ice shrinks, algae loses its surface, krill loses its food, and the entire food chain, from fish to penguins to whales, begins to tremble. Antarctic sea ice in 2023 reached a record low 1 million square kilometers below normal, an area the size of Egypt and France combined. Strangely, while coastal sea ice retreats, snowfall at the high interior plateau is actually increasing because warmer air holds more moisture to release as snow. Antarctica is not warming uniformly. Some regions cool, others warm rapidly. and that complexity makes predicting its future extraordinarily difficult. The Antarctic Peninsula, the finger of land pointing towards South America, is one of the fastest warming places on the entire planet over the past half-century. Average temperatures here have risen nearly 3 degrees Celsius in just 50 years, around 3 times the global average rate of warming. Adelie penguins, fully dependent on sea ice, are vanishing from the northern peninsula, while warmer water Gentoo penguins advance southward to fill their place. This is not merely a species swap, it is the entire structure of an ecosystem being rewritten in real time, right before scientists' eyes. But the whales now arriving are the most astonishing signal. Humpback whales appear in peninsular waters in numbers never previously recorded in human history. Humpback whales are recovering from commercial whaling and flooding into krill-rich Antarctic waters at a pace faster than anyone predicted. Humpback numbers in Antarctic waters have grown from a few thousand to more than 80,000 in just decades, one of the fastest wildlife recoveries in conservation history. But what whales bring is not only beauty, they are critical ecological engineers, pumping nutrients from the deep ocean to the surface in a surprising way. Whale feces, rich in iron, released at the ocean surface, triggers phytoplankton blooms, and phytoplankton absorbs carbon dioxide directly from the atmosphere, which means every healthy whale living in the Southern Ocean is actively pulling carbon dioxide out of Earth's atmosphere every single day. When whale populations were slaughtered in the 20th century, part of the ocean's carbon absorption capacity disappeared with them, and it took decades to recognize that connection. Antarctica is not merely a climate archive or a wildlife sanctuary, it is an active climate regulation system for the entire planet. The deep ocean circulation system of the world, the thermohaline conveyor, begins in Antarctic waters, where cold, dense water sinks and flows around the entire globe. That circulation regulates the temperature of every ocean on Earth, and any disruption could alter the climate of places thousands of kilometers from Antarctica. Research in 2023 showed the deep Antarctic circulation is weakening by around 30% compared to the previous decade, faster than any climate model had predicted. The reason is meltwater from land ice pouring into the ocean, diluting seawater, reducing salinity and density, and fresher water cannot sink as deeply as salt water can. If the thermohaline conveyor weakens enough, it could alter tropical rainfall patterns, shift agricultural seasons worldwide, and affect billions of people who have never heard of Antarctica. Antarctica, at the very end of the world, is one of the least known places, yet one of the most consequential for every person living on this planet. And here is what almost no one considers. Everything we know about Earth's climate future is verified by looking at the past preserved in that ice. When scientists want to test whether their climate computer models are accurate, they run them backward through time to see if they match what the ice has preserved. If the model matches the memory in the ice, we trust its predictions about the future. If it does not match, we must rewrite what we know about climate entirely. Which means Antarctica is not only telling the story of Earth's past, it is writing the story of our future. And that story is being written right now while most of us are sleeping, eating breakfast, thinking about our ordinary daily lives. Each year, around 5,000 scientists visit Antarctica in summer, and around 1,000 stay through the dark, completely isolated winter. Those who stay for winter cannot be evacuated if a medical emergency occurs. No aircraft can land in those conditions, and temperatures can fall to -89 degrees Celsius. The coldest temperature ever recorded on Earth was -93.2 degrees Celsius, measured on the East Antarctic Plateau in 2013. At that temperature, exhaled, breath freezes into crystals before it leaves your mouth, and boiling water thrown into the air becomes snow before it hits the ground. And in that very extreme environment, the world's space agencies are testing equipment and procedures in preparation for missions to Mars. The isolation, the cold, 6 months of darkness, and small group psychology of being confined at Antarctica is the closest humans can get to what they will experience on Mars. Because Antarctica is not only where we study Earth, it is where we learn how to exist beyond it. The South Pole Telescope, placed at the geographic South Pole, is one of the world's most important observatories because the atmosphere here is the driest and most stable on Earth. From here, scientists have mapped the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang itself, the echo of a moment before Earth even existed. A continent at the very end of Earth, the coldest, driest, highest, windiest place on the planet, turns out to be where humans can see the farthest into the universe. And beneath that telescope, beneath that research station, beneath 4 kilometers of ice, those ancient lakes still exist in silence. Living organisms inside those lakes, if further confirmed, may be evidence that life needs no sunlight to exist anywhere in the universe. And if that is true, then Antarctica is not just the coldest place on Earth, it may be the place that changes our answer to the greatest question of all. Are we alone? That is why the 1959 treaty freezing all sovereignty claims may be one of the wisest collective decisions our species has ever made. Because there are places where ownership is the wrong question, and the right question is, can we protect it long enough to learn everything it is trying to teach us? Antarctica does not ask what nation we belong to. It only asks whether we are patient enough and humble enough to listen to what it is saying. 4.5 billion years, and that place is still telling its story, in its own way, at its own rhythm. Not in words, but in layers of ice built through every winter, in lakes silent beneath, in creatures living in absolute darkness. Each layer of ice is one sentence in the longest letter Earth has ever written, and we are still learning how to read it. And perhaps the most important thing that ice is saying to us is not about the past, it is about the nature of what we are as a species. That we are the only species on Earth capable of reading the memory of our own planet, and the only species currently erasing it. Lake Vostok still lies there in darkness, under 4 kilometers of ice, and the creatures within it are still living as they have lived since before humans learned to walk upright. 4.5 billion years, and one place on Earth has never belonged to anyone, because perhaps it belongs to all of us, or to none of us. And the difference between those two things is everything.